What's going on, guys? It's Adam P and welcome back to Peterborough. I've just had my worst ever hotel experience. So in this video, I wanted to give you a bit of a two-part where I actually show off my hotel in the second part of the video. For the first part, I wanted to react to Eddie Howe's press conference and just talk through that horrendous loss to Brentford yesterday, because I'm truly baffled by the response from Eddie Howe, because he made some comments after the game that I just don't understand. So we're going to get through that in this video. I'm having a little look around the background. You might have seen that lad before, by the way. I think he was trying to nick my phone. You've got to constantly watch out, Peter, but it's horrible. But yeah, now that the course is clear, I'm going to get somewhere else that I'm going to show you and just get through what was truly an awful game. So what does that loss against Brentford mean for Newcastle United? Well, 0 wins in our last 9 matches in the Premier League, and that also means it is 4 wins in our last 15 for home and away matches combined, and what is a truly abysmal record, considering the fact that also includes a summer transfer window with heavy investment on the squad, and we have not improved, and that form is nowhere near good enough for European football. We're currently 2 points above the relegation zone and 7 points behind Sunderland, as I highlighted yesterday in my video. So what's the main problem this season? Now, I'm not going to divert it on Eddie Howe, but especially the last 2 away matches, so of course the Brentford loss and the West Ham loss, I think Eddie Howe deserves criticism, and I think the criticism is actually quite large. And I would argue, when you look at the starting 11, when you look at the subs we had available for the game yesterday, there's actually some better players on the bench than what started. The big one for me, and the obvious example, Lewis Hall, of course, left back available, who is actually class. We all know Lewis Hall is a fantastic player. He's in the under-21 national team for the international break, and we have Dan Burn playing left back, who is not a left back, if we're going to be honest with ourselves, and that is a player who, of course, is now in his 30s, playing 3 times a week, and is also not a great attacking fullback. I wouldn't even say he's a fullbacker. He's someone that tries to defend for us, but ultimately is a centre-half playing out of position. And Eddie Howe had the opportunity to start Lewis Hall, which he didn't do. Okay, fair enough. He then had the opportunity to sub Dan Burn off when he was on a yellow card. Eddie Howe did not do that. Dan Burn was then sent off, which meant that Eddie Howe then brought Lewis Hall on, which is not a great sign as a manager, because it's Eddie Howe being a reactive manager. He needs to be proactive, and he wasn't. A proactive manager would have either started Lewis Hall ahead of Dan Burn, or during the game would have then took Dan Burn off when he was on a yellow card, sub Lewis Hall on to prevent the red card. He doesn't do that. He waits until there's a mistake, which there was. Dan Burn, red card. Apparently, at that point, it doesn't matter who you sub on, because once we conceded the penalty, we're 2-1 down with 10 players. And this is a team that is struggling all season long to score goals. So with 11 players, when we're struggling to score goals, what the hell are we going to do with 10 players? And Eddie Howe found out the hard way that he made a crucial mistake, in my opinion, because Dan Burn should have not been playing left back. I think weeks on end now, we all know against good teams that are going to throw pace at him, he gets caught out a lot. And he got caught out twice in that game. First one, lucky we didn't have a penalty. Second one was a decisive yellow card, which completely ruined the game for Newcastle. And you would have to look at the facts that Eddie Howe gave after the game. He said that I kept Dan Burn on the pitch over Lewis Hall because of the height advantage Dan Burn brings to the team, which baffles me, because Malik Chow, 6'4", Sven Botman, 6'4", Nick Waltermart, 6'6", and how many teams in world football have fullbacks that you play for height advantages? Like, it doesn't exist at all. How many teams out there have even a fullback over 6'2"? Like, nobody does that out there. And Eddie Howe admitted that one of the key catalysts for keeping Dan Burn on is that he felt like the height advantage he has over Lewis Hall was a key advantage for the team, which just baffles me. Like, how is that the explanation? That just makes sense. Like, nobody plays tall fullbacks. It doesn't exist. Dan Burn is a centre half for a reason, because he's not quick. He hasn't got the attacking ability to be able to play as a fullback, who, especially the way Newcastle players, well, we have fullbacks that bomb up to help the attackers. Dan Burn does not help the attackers. He hasn't got the passing range to do that. He hasn't got the pace to do that, and he hasn't got the crossing ability to be able to distribute good balls. He's not something that is supposed to go forward, and Eddie Howe has a team that encourages the fullbacks to go forward. Dan Burn could not do that, and for Lewis Hall to not play at all until a red card was given out, that's a huge mistake. And you have to say last week as well, we had a mistake because of the fullback situation. You got Malik Chow at one point playing left back against West Ham, and it was a mess last week in terms of the formation and players that we had on the second half. And then today, he didn't bring players on with the need to come on. It's not even Dan Burn. Now, I'd actually argue without digging on one player, but you had to look at Nick Pope. He made crucial mistakes against West Ham last week. He gave a huge mistake away, tried to punch the ball away against West Ham, didn't do it well. Piquetta then got a shot, hit it near a post, and it was an easy save Nick Pope should have made, and it snuck past him. And then against Brentford, does the same again. He goes to punch the ball, misses it, and just lays down an open goal. And that's 2 away games in a row when Nick Pope made a crucial mistake. When we're winning the game 1-0, it's then got the opposition team back into the game. I know the argument since is that, well, Adam, Ramsdale conceded 2 goals last week. Nick Pope made a bunch of saves, and West Ham had loads of chances anyway. That's not the point. The point is the goal we conceded, that first goal, is an instigator. It's then led to these things happening. As long as the game's 1-0 to Newcastle, they've always got a chance to win. And unfortunately, Nick Pope has made mistakes for both of the equalisers in the last 2 games, and that's both times when Newcastle are 1-0 up and they've thrown games away. It's not good enough from our point of view. And that's before you look at our players. Should a guy like Jacob Murphy, you talk about Eddie Howe, I think we all know Eddie Howe's quite a loyal manager. He likes to stick with particular players and will back them no matter what. But then is not so loyal towards our ones, because, for example, Alanga, who, by the way, was our first key sign of the summer transfer window, so we brought Alanga in. We then waited a good month, or 1 to 2 months before we brought a second signing. Alanga's a key transfer target, which we secured for £55 million. And then he's not loyal towards Alanga. He plays Alanga some matches, realised that he's not great or is not able to distribute for Newcastle. So he then has Murphy starting week in, week out. And I would argue Murphy probably is the better option out of the two, but it's almost bizarre, really, because the £55 million sign, who you probably expect Eddie Howe would most likely be loyal to make sure we can get some value out of him, he's then not. He then brings Jacob Murphy in, and Alanga's sitting there on the bench, not really being able to grow into the game. And I would argue for his confidence as well, probably shoots his confidence off. And I would just say the recruitment this summer has been bad, because you talk about Alanga, £55 million. Is he worth £55 million? No. Walter, as good as Nick Walter's been, he's a striker that's playing in a system that doesn't suit him. He doesn't feel like he belongs playing for Newcastle United. He just seems like a player that's forced into the team. Like, we aren't playing to his strengths. He's not playing to our strengths. It's a player that's been forced into the deep end. And it's like, why do we spend £70 million in a striker if we don't know how to use him and he doesn't know how to play for Newcastle? Like, both of them just don't match up. And that's already £120 million. You then talk about Johan Wissa. A bit unfortunately, injury's got nothing to do with us, but that's £60 million that we've just thrown away on a player who hasn't even played for Newcastle United. Yeah, we are 2 points outside the bottom 3, and that's £60 million on a player there who still has not played for Newcastle United. You talk about comments about how it's more fitness related for the reason why he's not playing. I'm not fully convinced by those comments, because even if you're waiting for the guy to be 100% fit, is Newcastle seriously in a situation now where we can just allow a £60 million player to just gradually grow into the team? I don't think we are. I think we're in a situation, I would even say it's desperate. I think even if the guy's just sitting on the bench and not playing against Brentford, we want some indication that, Johan Wissa can potentially play for us. And for him not to be on the bench at all, even though comments suggest that he's not injured and it's just fitness related now, even that just seems a bit odd. Like, surely Johan Wissa, if would just be on the bench. You talked about Lewis Hall last week. Eddie Howe said Lewis Hall was never ever going to play against West Ham, and Lewis Hall's on the bench. So why was Johan Wissa not on the bench against Brentford? If even just to have the guy there, everything just about the last couple of weeks just seems odd. It just seems odd. I think you're saying as well, Ramsdale, of course, is a loan option to buy. He now has the opportunity to come to the team. Malik Chow has been the only good player Newcastle's actually brought in this summer who fits the system, helps the team in a positive way. He's the only one. As I said before, Nick Walter just doesn't seem to be the right fit for Newcastle, even though he has been class and he would argue he's overperformed in previous games. But now that little buzz period's off and he's not getting the opportunity to play at all, basically in the attack, we've got a player there who's just coming into the midfield. He's not progressive. He's not bringing the ball to the pitch. He's a player. He just doesn't fit Newcastle. Like, I can't say it anymore. Like, he just does not fit the way we play, and it's such a weird recruitment of a summer window, because Eddie Howe and the coaching team's got basically every single sign before this summer spot on. And then we had a summer window where almost all your signings just seem off or just don't seem like the right players to bring in. And I think a lot of the contributing factors has just been the reason why Newcastle has just been so off it. We haven't been anywhere near good enough, and it is truly shown. We've been found out a lot. I think the way Newcastle players as well, a lot of teams know Newcastle well. You could argue and use Sunderland's example, of course, they've signed so many players, they're a new team in the Premier League. Not many teams know them at all, whereas everyone knows Newcastle, so we're easy at counter. Teams know how to defend against Newcastle, and when you have a team that's struggling to score, doesn't know how to move the ball around, we're not doing well at all. I think it is getting serious now. I think Newcastle desperately needs to sort this out. You've got 2 weeks now, and that's a big positive. International breaks here, get in there and sort it out, because otherwise, European football is just going to go. And if you lose European football, then you're in real trouble, because you're going to lose a huge financial payment. Eddie Howe and the players will be under serious pressure. You're going to lose players because some players wouldn't want to play with no European football. And then you'll struggle to bring players in because not many players will want to join a team with no European football. So that's the problem Newcastle finds himself in. It's always self-inflicted as well. The way we lost to West Ham last week and the way we lost to Brentford this week, it's unacceptable. It is disgraceful. It cost ourselves so many points this season, and it's all our fault. We just make mistakes, and we continue to make mistakes. We have to improve, and I don't think there's been an improvement from West Ham last week to Brentford this week. That's a problem. Let me know your opinions down below on why you think that is. Now I'm going to show you my horrendous stay at the Travelodge here in Peterborough. For anyone eating or drinking watching this video, big disclaimer, it gets pretty disgusting. There's bed bugs, live bed bugs, and it gets even worse than that. So let me show you it now, and you guys can at least get some enjoyment out of this video. It's not been a good one, guys. I have already slept in this bed last night, and as you can slowly start to see on the pillow, something's moving around. And initially I wasn't quite sure what this was, but that appears to be blood, probably from the back of my head last night, I would imagine, and it's due to this little guy here. Oh, that is gross. That is a bed bug. That is not nice at all. Look, that wasn't me planting anything, you guys can see that. That's not me placing anything there. That is me staying in this Travelodge room, and of course that's the evidence there to prove that it's not hygienic, this bed, is it? So we're going to have to go downstairs, I think, and inform the reception about this unfortunate mishap. I've had a bit of a closer look inside the bed, and currently still just the one I was able to see so far, but I might remove the covers of the pillows shortly, see if I can find any more. One bed bug is still a bed bug, and that is the work that I was able to do last night on my head. I didn't quite realise at the time, but when I woke up this morning, you know, went in the shower, washed my head, and I could actually kind of feel at the top there's like a couple of little scabby like areas that you see sometimes, you can tell there's kind of been a bite there. Now, especially with bed bugs, one thing you always want to do, especially when you get back home, every bit of clothing that you have with you all needs to go in the wash and needs to be washed thoroughly as well. The last thing you want to do is to bring this back home with you, because it does happen. They stick to your clothes, they stick inside your suitcase, and all of a sudden bed bugs in your own household, which is the worst case scenario. That's the biggest fear you could possibly have, but 100% if you ever encounter anything like this, washing everything you got with you is the main priority when you get back home. I'm going to have one little final look, and then I'm getting myself out of this room, because I'm not staying in this room tonight. One thing I saw on the back of this pillow just before, like, what the hell is that? I'm going to open this up, because that's a weird looking stain or mark or whatever you want to call it. So let's open up the pillow and see what that actually is. With me now starting to take the covers apart, I'm starting to see marks like this. Like, is this evidence of, let's say, they had bed bugs in the past and they've killed these bed bugs? This is like evidence of their remains, or just like the sort of splatters they would make in the matches? Because I'm seeing loads of little marks, as I've shown you the one before on the pillow. And yet again, there's this marks here to suggest that something has been crushed or destroyed amongst the mattress, because that's just in amongst the bed I've been using. And of course I've shown you evidence before of one still being alive. So I've just been moved out of 310, which was my previous room, and we have now been relocated 2 doors down to 314. So as we open inside, I've already had the chance to get in before just to check the room out in a first glance. Obviously my big look was for bed bugs, and I haven't seen any so far, which is a good sign. As we go down this room, you can see the big differences. I've now been placed into a family room. So instead of the one bed in the middle, there's now 2 additional beds. With the bed bug situation, I have took all the clothes out that I've been wearing throughout my stay so far, and it's all been placed in that bed. So the reception downstairs and everyone in this hotel better hope there's no bed bugs amongst my suitcase, because otherwise it's now going to be in this room. And regardless of whether or not I brought bed bugs in, I've already confirmed the reception. There's bed bugs in my room. They bit my head. There's evidence of that, as you've seen in the video. So on top of the issues in your room, no matter what, you've got to also check this room out, because it's highly likely and it's very easy to spread bed bugs around these rooms. So on top of that, this room also has to be fully cleaned through. If you are eating, by the way, stop. Just pause this video altogether, because this has to be one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in a hotel room. So on paper, that's a chair. Yeah, okay, fine. Now, as I quite easily looked into the chair, I'm trying to get into the light here. What is that stain? I don't like the colour on that. I honestly don't like the colour on that. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves here, as I try and get it out of the shade, there we are. What else could have made that stain? There's a particular colour there, which I think everyone knows what colour that is. I don't think that's food stains because of where it is on the chair. I also don't think you could spill anything onto that part of the chair, because if you are sitting there, then you would block that stain. So there's only one suggestion on what that could be, and that has to be one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in any hotel room. Look, I'm standing far away. You can see that from here. That's not like, you might miss it. That is clear and obvious. I think it's highly likely for someone who, of course, has been on the toilet, decided not to put anything on but their boxers or whatever. And I think they've sat on that chair, and that's exactly what I think those stains are. I haven't got anything else to go off on and what else that could be. I think that's poop stains. I can't see how it's not. But yeah, we're going to use that chair over there. I am not even going to go anywhere near that chair. And that's obvious as well. That's not like you guys have missed that. That's quite easy to see as you walk into a hotel room. Oh dear. As for the rest of the room, of course, you can see I had a look at the beds before. I haven't spotted anything on a first glance. It's so far so good in that respect. The noise down here is a little noisy outside, but to be honest, I can just put AirPods in and sleep with the AirPods off, so I don't even mind any potential noises. And trust me, if you guys have been subscribed for a long period of time, Birmingham Travelodge has been the worst ever for noises. As we head towards the bathroom, again, we are staying well clear of the clothes I've been wearing so far. Now, I'm going in the shower. As soon as I've done that clip, I'm making sure, before I even consider touching a new bed, I'm getting in that shower, just making sure there's nothing still rummaging around my body or on these particular clothes. And unfortunately, as we'll explain in just a moment, the reception downstairs was even a nightmare with this situation. As I went downstairs the reception, I'm not sitting there. As I went downstairs the reception, I had the chance to go up to them, and I just went into the detail, said that this is my second night here, I'm staying 3 nights. There are bed bugs in my bed. That simple. And it was bizarre. Just to explain, so there's 3 staff members behind reception. There's one on the reception, and there's 2 of them that are in the staff room next to reception. So they're not on desk, but they're kind of eavesdropping, and they're quite close to the desk. So I go up to the desk, I explain the situation, and I've never seen receptionists give less of a crap in my life. I went up to the guy, I said, there's bed bugs in my bed, and he just looked at us. Like, I had to like physically explain what I wanted to do and what I came downstairs to say, because I don't know if he's new to the job. I don't know if he hasn't experienced anyone complaining about bed bugs, but he just looked at us and didn't quite know what to say. So I had to kind of like go into it. I'm going, well, there's bed bugs in my bed. I'm staying here for a couple of nights. I've paid to be here. You know, can I get a different room? Is there any other rooms available? And then he started to respond and go, well, we've got a couple of family rooms available. Okay, well, can I go in one of them? And he started to arrange it all out. He then came out afterwards with a note. It's basically just a little travelodge sheet. I wrote my complaint down. I've said that I got video proof of bed bugs in my room. There's blood stains on the bed because of areas amongst my head where the little bugs would have been biting me during the night. So I've done that, and the lad in reception is then going through what rooms are available, and then the two people in the back are just taking the mick out of the lad in the front. So they just keep saying, oh, you're stupid, you ask stupid questions, you know, if I ask you this question, are you going to say this answer? They're probably berating this lad, and you could argue if anyone's working at a job, it's a bit of banter back and forth, but it seemed fairly malicious. It was like a 2-on-1. The lad, with all due respect to him, looks either new or just maybe a bit inexperienced, and he's just getting properly griefed by two people that are standing in the back doing bugger all. They're not doing anything, they're not on the computers, they're literally both standing next to each other. They're not even got the uniform on properly, they're just standing there having a laugh, you know, just probably killing time and just doing whatever they need to. And the poor lad in the desk is obviously struggling, needs some help, and they're just taking the mick out of him. And considering that, I'm explaining that this is, you're talking for a hotel, this is like one of the worst things you can possibly have in a hotel, because of course you have to quarantine everything, has to be fully cleaned out, and especially under the policy of the likes of Travelodge, it's quite a big deal for a hotel company, especially as someone such as myself who, of course, makes videos on hotels and someone who documents my experience. It's quite bad PR and bad rep for Travelodge to have in social media, and then they're just in the back just having a laugh. Like, that baffles me. I was absolutely baffled by their reaction. I had to fully explain what I wanted. I had to fully explain the situation, and I just never felt like they gave one. I just don't think they give a crap at all. And so I'm in my room now. I'm not going to complain much more, but I was very surprised by the reaction behind the desk, because it was just one where a lad didn't quite know what was going on, and then his colleagues were just taking the piss out of him. I kind of felt bad for him, but at the same time, he also needs to be like, you know, solving the situation. I didn't feel like anything properly was solved other than me moving room. I filled this shit out. I've got absolutely no idea if I'm going to get any money back, or was going to be anything from Travelodge contact me. It just felt all a bit just not how it should have been done, if that makes any sense. Just emptying the suitcase now. I'm going to have a little look just in case we have any stragglers alongside me and my travel case. There's a few bits of potential evidence in that corner there. I'm moving my hand away for just a moment. Hang on. I seen someone move there. Do you guys see it in the camera? Someone in the middle bounced. Shit. That's not good. Fuck, is anything else going to move? I'm sure something's moved in the case there. This thing here, is it? Where does it go? Which one is it? I'm absolutely certain something has moved in that case there. It looks a bit smaller than the bed bug. I swear my cat had them once. I don't know if it's fleas or whatever they are, but they're a lot smaller, and there seem to be more little dots that kind of bounce around more than anything. I'm certain something has moved there. I'm going to start moving the Dan Bird card around a little bit to see if I can see any movements. I am sure, on my life, I am sure something started moving around there. Well, congratulations, Peter Bird. This has to be the biggest disaster weekend I think I've ever had watching Newcastle United in the UK. Where do I begin? Hotel room, we all know in the last room. I've got a real nightmare now getting back home and making sure that every single bit of clothing washed separate, all, of course, put into the wash, and just making sure not a single bit of it gets inside the house before it's all cleaned out. I've seen some suggestions, for example, saying to go as far as to make sure you take no clothing back. Well, stuff like this, for example, like you can't even buy anymore from Newcastle United, so it kind of does have to come back, and we're just going to make sure, praying, and I'm fingers crossed that we don't get any bed bugs in the house, because if that happens, then we are truly knackered. That's on the top of a horrendous performance at Brentford. And even when recording videos, you've seen it in the intro, and you've seen it in my overnight stay from a couple of days ago. I can't even walk around Peterborough at night without someone actually trying to take my phone. Constantly, you know, I'm just letting them know that I can see them, and they just walk past. It's horrible. Peterborough's horrible at night time. I actually stand by. I think Peterborough's the worst place I've stayed at when you're walking around at night time. Proper, just full of people that are looking to actually steal stuff from you. It's horrible. Like, honestly, it's horrible. And I'm sorry if anyone Peterborough's watching this video, but it's not great at night time, I'm going to be honest. But we move on, we deal with it. Next one's Marseille. So if you think this is bad, just wait until Marseille. I'm sure you guys are going to be licking your lips watching this video, or the potential nightmare I might have in my personal experience. So you guys will have a great time. I'm not going to have a great time, most likely. Appreciate your support anyway. Let me know your opinions on everything we're discussing in this video. It's going to be a long video, but we move on, we'll deal with it. But my word, Newcastle, that was not worth it. That was awful.